we see our finished product. This is a G1 size cell. This is a G1 cell. That's what they call an M6.
Welcome to Walking into the Sunset. I'm at Hightec Solar here in Michigan City, and I'm with Jesse McNeely, the owner of Hightec Solar, and he's graciously allowed us to come in and take a look at their facility, and he's going to show us some of what they do. Jesse?
Awesome. So, like we were saying, we started in 2001 with solar cells, and we distributed them to other manufacturers. Around 2007 and 8, when the economy wasn't the greatest, we were doing okay still. We decided that that would be a good time to maybe step into the manufacturing market. So we did so and did that transition from a solar cell distributor to a solar panel manufacturer. We've been manufacturing panels since then. You yourself have purchased the panels for your RV or your trailer. I was going to say, they are a premium product without a premium price, fortunately, and they're a cut above the rest. We use very specific source cells, very specific source frame, a special type of glass, all of those things to get as much power from the small footprint as we can. We do a little bit slightly different process than other manufacturers, where we use manual labor for our layup process, which is the actual making of the panel, as opposed to only machines. We have equipment that does the parts that have to be done by equipment, and we have people do the parts that don't have to be. This allows us to make a variety of different size panels, a variety of different types of panels, so that we can, one, stay competitive in the market, and two, provide a variety from a very small 20 or 30 watt panel all the way up to a 550 watt or even 600 watt panel, and as we've moved forward, probably even larger than that. So the 220 watt panels, or that size panel like you have for your trailer, very popular. We do a lot of business with the RV industry, aftermarket RV industry, also installers, distributors that do installations, because they fit well on the top of an RV. They're designed that way. So kind of what we could do here is I can show you guys part of the process, and then we'll show you guys the manual process, and I can answer any questions that you might have as far as Hightec Solar and our future.
So you guys ship all over the world, or all over the country right now?
We can ship via FedEx, just one panel or as many as you need. Domestically, we can ship internationally. We do ship internationally, but typically our international orders are larger freight orders. We ship via FedEx and custom boxing that we designed. It took us a few years to get that right, but we've got it right. Many years ago now. We have very little damage. We can ship a solar panel overnight to virtually any place in America, and especially in the domestic, in the 48, in the lower 48 continental United States. But we can also ship to Alaska, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Caribbean. With 24 hours notice, we can get a shipment ready and have it prepared and ready to go usually.
And is eBay one of the easiest ways to find you guys?
eBay's the easiest way. Hightecsolar.com. The link, when you click there to purchase, it's going to link you over to our eBay store. We started selling panels on eBay in 2007 and 8. We wanted to stay with that platform because we had a following that followed us on the eBay, as well as moving into having distributors and other manufacturers sell our panels with their electronics and equipment. So typically eBay is the easiest way to get a panel. You can also go to our website. There's contact information there. You can contact us. We're happy to take orders over the phone. We can charge you by debit card and ship sometimes the same day, but typically within 24 hours.
And if you're lucky enough to live in the area like I do, you can come right here. Yeah, it's amazing to show up here.
Never turn away a customer. That was one of the reasons, when we started actually making panels, one of the reasons was we had done a little bit of distributing other companies' panels, and there was never enough panels. And if you were a regular guy like I was then or am now still, and I wanted to buy just one panel, there was not any place to do that. And the few limited places that were around, you couldn't buy one. You needed to buy a pallet, or you needed to buy a minimum order quantity.
Yeah.
We don't have a minimum order quantity. Our minimum order quantity is one. And we just want to sell them to a regular guy at a competitive price.
And they're made right here in the Midwest, in the USA.
Michigan City, Indiana. Our price is typically internationally competitive, so that's another side of it. We compete with the Chinese primarily, but we've stayed financially competitive with them as far as pricing and quality. What you won't see anywhere else is the quality of panel that we have, that we make here. I've said it before, and I'll say it many times again, I'm sure. We're willing to take any panel that we manufacture and put it up against any other panel of the same wattage and type, and see who comes out on top. And in the past, there's other YouTube videos around, it's been us. I can't think of a time when any panel that we've seen of the same wattage to a Hightec solar panel was outperforming. The craftsmanship was better. It just isn't there. This is a top of the line. We've been doing this for going on 20 years, and we haven't changed a whole lot, which while the industry has, because at a certain point, we knew, this is about as good as it's gonna get craftsmanship-wise. The thickness of the frame, the way that it's manufactured, the thickness of the glass, the way the design. We did change to a very specific type of glass that has you can't see it, but if you feel the front of our glass, it feels rough. And that's because it's called a prismatic matte. It has a matte instead of a gloss on the front. Instead of an IR coating, which will block out some rays, we use the matte finish on the glass, which allows the glass to increase the efficiency of our panel so that you can get the most output out of the space possible.
Well, you're seeing this actually sometime after I bought my panels. You're going to see this before, actually. You see all that, the installation, but I can tell you in the time I've been running the panels, they're absolutely amazing, because as you'll see, they're on the top of my trailer flat. And there's about 8 inches of room to get that bifacial effect, which isn't the most for bifacial, but I'll tell you what you're gonna see with my panels is gonna be amazing for laying flat on top of a trailer. So.
Yeah, they are. One thing, like I was telling our other customers that were just here previously this morning, we have a real list. We flash test all of our panels. We're the only manufacturer that provides the flash test data from your panel with your panel.
Yep.
So you know exactly what the output of your panel was in what they call standard test conditions. A lot of manufacturers will then tell you that in the nominal operating conditions, NOTC, that you will have a significant degradation of power. Now, various things can affect the output of a panel. However, your NOTC and your STC should be very similar. In our case, they're typically more, and we want that because we can't simulate the sun, no matter how much the equipment says it can. It cannot. The sun's brighter, has more rays, it's more powerful. It's what keeps the planet the way that it is, and a machine can't simulate that. So you will see, I'm sure as you've seen, that our panels outperform what they're rated at instead of trying to perform what they're rated at. Again, that's the difference really at the end of the day. As far as output, that's the important part. You want output, you need output. That's what this is all about. If you build a panel and call it a 300 and then say, well, it's really only a 230 because it doesn't make 300 watts.
Right.
Well, you should have sold me a 230 as opposed to a 300.
Yep.
But we can kind of walk through the process.
Yeah.
I can show you the machine. This is a solar stringer. It's an NPC machine. A lot of guys have switched over to like a micro wire and have gone to like 12 or 15 bus bar. I'm an electrical engineer. My father's an electrical engineer. My son's a third-generation solar panel manufacturer. We know solar panels better than anybody in America. And I can tell you that the more wire you have, the more resistance you have. Wire creates resistance in an electrical circuit. So for us, at 5 bus bar, we get as much output as these guys do with a 9 bus bar micro wire, a 12 bus bar micro wire. So we kind of shied away from that technology, whereas previously we'd stayed at the forefront of the technological leaps. We made a big leap from excuse me, from a 5 bus bar to our next generation will be a no wire shingled cell rear connectivity panel, which we're bringing the line online for that. And you know, those panels will have a even greater output in the similar footprint to what we have now, and will widen out our capability for various outputs, because we can make a string of any size that we want. With a machine like this, you're limited to a maximum of 12 cells, or if it's a half cell, to a string of 24 half cells. With a shingled stringer, we can make 3 cells soldered together, or we can make, as long as the machine will allow us, soldered together in one string. So that is advantageous. Another thing about Hightec Solar is we're the only company in the country, one of the few on the planet, that if you contact us and say, hey, I need a panel that's 25 inches by 10 inches, that's the space I have, that's all the space I have.
Wow.
We can make it. We can make a panel and test it. We use a regular piece of glass. We'll test that at that size, see what output potential you have at that space, and then we can manufacture the panel in a short order. Sitting right over there is a panel that's about 93 by 45 to 47-ish. Those are custom-made panels. We can go from this very small to very large, whatever size anyone needs. We source the glass in America, so it's maybe a few days of lead time to get you some glass that's a special order, and we can get you a panel whatever size you need, and whatever output is capable in that particular space. Because we use what's called manual layup and have human beings do that job,
right,
we can, 1, give some more Americans jobs,
right,
and 2, do a changeover like that. And in another factory, you can't.
Right.
You cannot. Mission Solar, which we work with, Solar for America, Longy, Canadian Solar, Hanwha Q-Cell, they all have plants either coming online or that they've been working on here in America or that are up and running. They make 1 panel. Maybe they make 2. A 60 cell module and a 72 cell, or 120 and 144 half cell modules. That's because that's all their equipment will make.
Got it.
And because they lock themselves into that equipment, they don't have the flexibility that we have to make whatever size panel is necessary for a particular job. Those panels that I was just talking about, those large, 93 by 47, I think is what it is. Those were for Patriot Solar. They're for their what's called their Titan 2. It's like a 53-foot commercial trailer with basically it doesn't have the box system on, it's a flatbed with a solar panel system that springs out so that you could have a large scale mobile solar and set it up anywhere that you need to do. So I'll start this machine, and you can come over here and you guys can take a look and we'll see how this works. It's pretty cool. It's 25 or so air pneumatic robots working in unison, so it's a little complicated, but we've worked the kinks out of these long ago, and having been familiar with the process, by the time we got to this generation, it was much easier to deal with than in the beginning. So let me start that real quick.
Yep.
So over here, the cells are put into the machine. We do it in, it's called the L test. It checks for impurities, cracks in the cell, thinness in the cell membranes with a camera right up here. Let's see what it's saying. Hold on. So one thing that happens is these fingers pick up a piece of wire to put it in place here, and especially when the machines first start, they take these wires and they cut it from the spool and then solder it into place. It's very common in the industry for this to be a problematic part of anybody's manufacturing process. We deal with it every day. The process is very intensive on the damage of cells. So that's one of the reasons that there's not a huge overhead in this market, is because it's, you know, solar cell is as thick as a piece of paper and brittle like a piece of glass. Then grabs the wire, it sets it right over there. That machine uses hot air, 480C, solders the wire to the cell front and back at the same time. And then right over here, we see our finished product. This is a G1 size cell. It's 188 millimeters by 188 millimeters square. It's a little bigger than the industry started with, but depending on your manufacturer, you could see a cell as large as 210 millimeters square. So our shingled cells will be our first forte into the 210, but we were able to get up to a 188 millimeter on this equipment. This machine will make approximately a string every 45 or 50 seconds. We have them deposited into these trays. As you can see, these are bifacial cells. The trays are then taken to our manual layup stations, and the guys lay them out, solder the strings together, and then it's ready for lamination. I'll discharge this and we can show you guys the next step. So after we run the machine and it makes the strings, we bring them to these tables and they do what's called manual layup. Now, you can see these strings are slightly longer than this glass that's here. That's because this is my personal table where I was doing some R&D. These are a panel this size we're making special for a customer that wants to put them on some chicken coops. Pretty popular thing in this area locally. Yeah. So this is only 7 cells, but our strings are typically start at around a 9, and it all depends on what we're trying to do with them. But I had some 9s right here, so I used them for this. So what they'll do is they would line these strings up like this, in this case 3. We have 2, output, but on the bottom here, we take the soldering iron and we take a piece of wire and it's placed like this underneath. Now this is not the best wire, but we would place it like this under here and they'll solder it together. Now, I don't have a pattern for these yet because we're still working on them. However, our other panels, we use a very specific, get down cat, get out of here. A pattern like these, you can see they got solder marks all over them. This is one for a 60 cell module. The cells are all in series. Because of that, they face a different direction. As you can see, the wire comes off the top of this cell and off the front of this one. But they're placed into their location, aligned, and then soldered into place. We choose to have human beings do this part. The reason for that is the ability to change over from one panel to the next without that part of it being that way can take a day or longer for the standard manufacturer. For us, if we were making this smaller panel right here and decided to go to a much larger panel like some of those sitting right over there, you know, it only takes just a second. And we're doing this, soldering these in place, just like that. It's actually very fast. It's fairly easy, if I can hold them in place myself. And this is an excellent electrical connection. We use this is silver solder. You know, it's about 20% silver, and that's for the conductivity as opposed to a standard solder that doesn't conduct electricity as well. We want to make sure that we're conducting as much of the generated power as possible. So they solder here, the next they take, this is a bifacial module right here that they built. As you can see, we've got a clear back sheet, a piece of plastic encapsulant, then your cell assembly, another piece of the plastic encapsulant, and then our custom glass. They're pretty fragile, but I know their limits. As you can see right there, somebody didn't. But at that point then, they're placed in lamination. Here's one waiting to be laminated here. Well, that's one's been laminated, and it's sitting here as a test panel. We run it through repeatedly. It's the first cycle panel. We'll put 4 of our 36 cell panels or 2 of our 60 cell or 72 cell panels in this laminator. We have two separate lines that we run lamination on. There's another laminator in the next room. Once the lamination is completed, here's our larger test cycle panel over here. You can see they've been laminated many times. They get air, they've got air in them because of that. So that once the panel's lamination is completed, it looks like this. It's called a laminate, pretty fancy name. It'll be trimmed. Obviously we don't trim these because it's not necessary. They just get run through the machine regularly. It's trimmed, and then it's framed, and then we put the lead box on, and then it's tested. We L-test in the beginning to make sure that the cells are properly aligned and that they don't have any damage or cracks or fractures, et cetera, et cetera. And then we flash test at the very end to make sure that the cells have been assembled correctly and that the output is what it should be prior to going to the customer. So that process takes place right over here. So our other flat or laminator. As you can see, we do a lot of different types of panels because many different sizes and outputs for many different customers. This is a older style manual framing machine. We use them because they work. The frame is a double-walled aluminum frame. We cut it custom in-house, and we buy it in large sticks. We cut it down. It's then keyed and then used in the machine. We use PV807, which is a multi-part silicone designed for the long-term use in a solar panel. So they frame here. That gets us to this part right here. Here's one of our panels that we framed. This is a 325 monofacial white back sheet, 5 bus bar, 156 millimeter cell. It's a small module, pretty high output for the 60 cell size. After they're framed, they test here. We have Sunspire testers. Our calibration boards are updated biannually every 6 months. We rotate them in and out to maintain proper calibration. But just to give you an idea, this panel that's on there now, it's rated as a 335. Its output's 380 watts. So that right there is one of our new generation of panels that we've been testing with. As you can see, there's no wire. The panel uses what's called ECA, electroconductive adhesive, to glue the cells together. And we can cut the cell. Those are cut into just half cells. We can cut the cell down into as many as 6 pieces to allow changes in voltage and in amperage based on requirement. So here you can see finished products, various, this is a 220 to 280, the same in a black frame. That's a 200 to 260, the same in a silver frame.
That's mine, right?
Yep. No, yours I think are these.
Okay.
One or the other. Yeah, maybe it is that one.
Yeah, it's this one that's
got the yep. So
this one here.
Right, the difference of that is this is a G1 cell. That's what they call an M6. Still a very popular cell. This is just a previous generation of cells to these. What changed was mono cells. You used to be able to tell the cell by this corner. Mono cells now, you can't tell the difference between a mono, and no one uses poly anymore, but poly cells used to be square like this. When they stopped using poly cells, they said, well, that much right there is a little bit more power. So, and it is. These are 180s, our 200, our 215, and our 210. They're all identical to this. Different size cells, same size panel. Popular for the RV industry, popular for off-grid, used a lot in outdoor, off-grid, water aeration, cabins, any place where you need power but aren't able or don't want to spend the cost to run, grid tie wiring to it. Several different companies use these in their cell phone towers. Sprint, AT&T, and Verizon. Well, it's not Sprint anymore, it's T-Mobile now, but it was AT&T, Sprint, and Verizon when we started. Use these panels for the power backup on the cell phone towers, especially the 5G. So 2 of these, make sure that we can all use the phone. Once that's done, we do some packaging. This is our completed package for shipping. It's a specially designed box. It's 400 mil. It's very thick. It has a reinforced cardboard corner, reinforced in the center, reinforced on both sides, so that we can ship it on a FedEx truck and make sure that it's getting where it needs to go without any damage. We have about, when we first started, 1 in 10 or 20 might be broken. Now it's 1 in 500 or more. So that's another reason that we continue to do manual layup, is the manual layup process significantly reduces waste as far as an off-spec product, because human beings are able to inspect it at every step, as opposed to seeing a cell at the beginning and a solar panel at the end that went through a bunch of machines. That makes it difficult to keep up on the waste. It makes it difficult to keep up on the maintenance of the equipment, because you don't know what's happening problematically exactly. And it helps us to keep our costs down, because when you make 100 panels and 50 of them are bad because you didn't know it until they were completed, you have to absorb that cost into your manufacturing process. Because our efficiency is so much higher than the average manufacturer, we're able to keep our costs internationally competitive, which is difficult here in America.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jesse. Really appreciate that. And thanks for your hospitality, inviting us here to Hightec Solar in Michigan City, Indiana. Anything you want to add to this?
Just if you have any questions about any solar system that you're working with, we're happy to try to help everybody. We like to see people getting into the solar industry and into the consumer market, get it done properly, make sure that nobody's going to get hurt. If you have questions, concerns, about any solar systems that you're working with or solar panels that you're working with, feel free to give us a call. Feel free to visit our website, hightecsolar.com. We're happy to help a customer, even if they're not only our customer. We try to go the extra mile with information about our panels, and that's pretty much universal to other solar panels. We're glad that you guys could come. And we're happy that we've been in this industry long enough to enjoy the fruits of our labor, and because of that, we try to keep our customer base and other companies' customer bases supplied with information. And don't hesitate to call, stop by, email, any of those things, and we'll be happy to help you guys out any way we can.
And as many of you know, I will be taking him up on this because I plan on some more solar projects. My trailer isn't the end of this. I think I've let you know in some earlier episodes, I've got some other projects possibly coming up, so we will be back here again. So in closing, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Your
Absolutely.
time, and we will definitely see you again on the channel.
Awesome.
Thanks,
you.
Jesse.
Yep, no problem. You guys have a great day.
That was a great interview. Thanks, Jesse, for allowing us to come down to your solar plant and see how you make these. I think it's so great to see the passion that Jesse has for making these panels along with his dad and his son. It is a great family business, and it's been great getting to know them. Along with that, I do need to make sure to say this is in no way sponsored. I did buy the panels that I'm putting on my trailer from them and plan to buy a bunch more panels from them in the future. I think they make a great product, and I think the numbers prove it out. So with that being said, thank you for joining us. I'm so glad you could come along and get to see this place right here in America where they are making solar panels. So as always, please make sure you hit the subscribe, the like, and ring that bell. Until next time, thanks for watching.